the sum and product of the roots. Our next problem, we have 16 y squared equals to positive 9. First, let us combine all the terms on the left side. So to combine all the terms, we need to transpose positive 9 to the other side. So we have to transpose this to the left side so that all the terms will be on the left. So transposing or transferring, we will have 16 y squared. If we transpose positive to the other side, it will change sign. So this will become negative 9. And what will be left on the right side is 0. This is now a quadratic equation since we have here y squared. Okay, so the quadratic equation is of the form ax squared plus, it is of the form not x squared but ay squared plus by plus c equals to 0. So the a here will be the numerical coefficient of our first term. Our numerical coefficient of our first term is positive 16. This is our a. Now, b is the numerical coefficient of the second term, but there is no second term here. There is no term with y variable. So since there is no term, b here will be 0. And our c is our constant, and this is negative 9. Now for the sum of the roots. The sum of the roots will be x sub 1 plus x sub 2 equals to negative b all over a. Now, negative b, our b here is 0 all over, the value for a, that is 16. So the value for a here is 16. But 0 divided by any number, this is equal to 0. Disregard the negative sign. So our x sub 1 plus x sub 2, this is equal to 0. And for the product of the roots, we will have x sub 1 times x sub 2. So x sub 1 times x sub 2, that is c all over a. Our value for c is negative 9, and our value for a is positive 16. We cannot simplify this anymore, so negative 9 all over 16, this is our value for x sub 1 times x sub 2. So let's put here a box. Our sum of the roots is 0, and our product of the roots is negative 9 all over 16. They are our final answers. The sum and product of the roots. Our next problem, we will have 9t squared minus 6t equals to 0. So before we proceed, we can see that we can simplify this equation because we have 9 and 6 here, and 3 is common between the two terms. So we can divide both sides of the equation by 3. So let us divide both sides of the equation by 3. So this will be 9t squared times 1 over 3. This will be 9t squared all over 3 minus 6t all over 3 equals to 0 times 1 over 3, that is 0. So 9 divided by 3, that is equal to 3t squared minus 6 divided by 3, that is 2t equals to 0. So we can now get the values of a, b, and c. So this is of the form a t squared plus bt plus c equals to 0. So the value for a here, it will be the numerical coefficient of our first term. So our a here is the numerical coefficient of our first term, that is positive 3. Our b, this is the numerical coefficient of our second term, and that is negative 2. And for our c, we do not have a third term. So since we do not have a third term, the value for c is 0. Okay, let us now get the sum of the roots. So the sum of the roots, this will be x sub 1 plus x sub 2. And the equation of the sum of the roots is negative b all over a. Now, our b here, our value for b is negative 2. So this will be negative multiplied by negative 2. And this will be divided by the value of a, which is positive 3. So negative multiplied by negative, that is positive 2 all over 3. We cannot simplify this anymore. So x sub 1 plus x sub 2 is equal to 2 over 3. And let's find out the product of the roots. This will be x sub 1 times x sub 2. And the formula for x sub 1 times x sub 2, that is positive c all over a. And we know that the value of c is 0 and the value of a is positive 3. Again, 0 divided by any number, the answer is 0. So the product of the roots, which is x sub 1 times x sub 2, that is equal to 0. So this is equal to 0. And the sum of the roots is 2 over 3. And these are our final answers. The sum and product of the roots. Our next problem, we will have 8x is equal to 5x squared minus 7. Before we can solve this, we are going to combine 8x to 5x squared minus 7. So we need to transpose 8x to the right side. Okay, so we are going to transpose this to the right side. So transposing, we will have 0 is equal to 5x squared. If we transpose positive, this will change sign. This will become negative 8x minus 7. So we can interchange this, okay? This one, let's interchange that with 0. So this will be 5x squared minus 8x minus 7 equals to 0. So this is now a quadratic equation of the form ax squared plus bx plus c equals to 0. So again, this is of the form ax squared plus bx plus c equals to 0. Let us now find the values of a, b, and c. So our a here, this is the numerical coefficient of our first term. The numerical coefficient is positive 5. So our a is positive 5. And our b is the numerical coefficient of the second term. This is negative 8. Our c is the constant, and this is negative 7. Okay. Now, let us get the sum of the roots. So the sum of the roots is x sub 1 plus x sub 2. So x sub 1 plus x sub 2, this is negative b all over a. Now, our b here is negative 8. So this will be negative multiplied by negative 8 divided by a, which is positive 5. So negative multiplied by negative, that is positive 8 all over 5. Or we can change this to improper fractions. So 8 divided by 5, the whole number is 1. Copy the denominator. And for the numerator, we will have 8 minus 5, that is 3. So our x sub 1 plus x sub 2 is 1 and 3 over 5. Let us now get the product of the roots. So x sub 1 times x sub 2, the formula here is c all over a. So the value for c is negative 7, and this will be divided by positive 5. Or we can change this to improper fraction. 7 divided by 5, the whole number is 1. And copy the denominator. For the numerator, we will have 7 minus 5, that is 2. So our product of the roots x sub 1 times x sub 2 will be negative 1 and 2 over 5. So let's box our final answers. X sub 1 plus x sub 2 is 1 and 3 over 5. And x sub 1 times x sub 2 is negative 1 times 2 over 5. And these are our final answers. The sum and product of the roots. Our next problem, we have x squared minus 5x plus 3 equals to 0. Now this is a quadratic equation, and it is already of the form ax squared plus bx plus c. Again, it is of the form ax squared plus bx plus c equals to 0. We can now get the values of a, b, and c. So the value of a, this is the numerical coefficient of the first term. Since there is none here, it is understood that the value of a is positive 1. Since 1 multiplied by x squared, the answer is x squared. So our value for a is positive 1. The value for b, this is the numerical coefficient of our second term. This is negative 5. And the value for c, it is our constant or third term, that is positive 3. And now we can solve for the sum of the roots. So sum of the roots, that will be x sub 1 plus x sub 2. The formula for sum of the roots is negative b all over a. So this will be negative, our b is negative 5, and divide this by a, which is positive 1. So negative times negative 5 is positive 5 divided by 1, that is equal to positive 5. So x sub 1 plus x sub 2 is equal to positive 5. And let us solve the product of the roots. We will have x sub 1 times x sub 2, and this will be equal to c over a. So the value of c is positive 3, and divide this by the value of a, which is positive 1. So 3 divided by 1, that is positive 3. So therefore our product of the roots, or x sub 1 times x sub 2, this is equal to positive 3. So x sub 1 plus x sub 2, this is positive 5. And x sub 1 times x sub 2 is positive 3. These are our final answers. The sum and product of the roots. Our next problem, we will have positive 15. This is equal to 7y minus 5y squared. So first, let us change negative 5y to positive, and then we need to transpose this to the left side, and the left side will be transposed to the, or rather, let us just transpose this to the left side so that negative 5y squared will be positive. So we are going to transpose that to the left. So transposing, what will happen is that the sign of the terms here on the right side will change. So negative 5y here, negative will change this will become positive. So this will already be 5y squared. And if we transpose positive 7y, its sign will change. From positive, this will become negative 7y. And since we did not move positive 15, this would still be positive 15. And since there are no terms left here, this will already be 0. So this is already a quadratic equation, and it is of the form axa y squared plus by plus c equals to 0. We can now get the values of a, b, and c. So the value of a here, this is the numerical coefficient of our first term. So our a here will be positive 5. The value of b, that is the numerical term of our numerical coefficient rather of our second term, and this is negative 7. And our c, this is the coefficient or the third term, that is positive 15. We are now going to get the sum of the products. So the sum of the products will be x sub 1 plus x sub 2, and its equation will be negative b all over a. So the value for b here is negative 7. So we have negative multiplied by negative 7 and divide this by a, which is positive 5. So negative multiplied by negative is positive. So this will be 7 over 5. And let us make this as an improper fraction. So 7 divided by 5, the whole number is 1. And then copy the denominator, which is 5. And for the numerator, that will be 7 minus 5, and that is 2. And for the product of the roots, we have x sub 1 times x sub 2. So x sub 1 times x sub 2 is c over a. The value for c is 0, and divide this by a, which is, or rather, the value for c is positive 15. So our c here is 15. Our a is 5. So 15 divided by 5, this is positive 3. So our x sub 1 times x sub 2, this is equal to positive 3. So x sub 1 plus x sub 2, this is 1 and 2 over 5. And x sub 1 times x sub 2, that is positive 3. These are our final answers.